This is Walter Cronkite all over the world and national news for you at 7 o'clock from CBS News headquarters in New York. From the studios of TV8, Ray Wilson and Bob Regan present the award-winning TV8 Newsreel. Mel Knapp brings you another special report. Lyle Bond reports on the world of sports. Doug Oliver presents the weather word. Harold Keene interviews people in the news, and Bob Dale reports the lighter side. I'll be back with these and other special features on the CBS Evening News.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Safeco Insurance, your finest, most complete roof of plan protection.
Good evening. These are the world headlines at this hour. Red China says it's ready to undertake maximum national sacrifices to support North Vietnam in fighting the United States. But the broadcast from Peking does not say what form these sacrifices might take. The broadcast also opposed what is called the wanton bombing of Haiphong. In the Senate, critics of Vietnam policy have been speaking out in the wake of the stepped-up air war. Democrat J.W. Fulbright says the administration is actually trying to escalate the war and knock down all criticism here at home. And Democrat Stephen Young of Ohio says that General Westmoreland was called home from Vietnam to lobby for further escalation of the war.
The State Department admitted to Congress today that there was a pattern of abuse in the $400 million commodity aid program to South Vietnam, including corruption, kickbacks, and illicit sales to the Viet Cong. Republican Senator Carl Munt of the Senate Investigation Subcommittee probing the matter said the situation, to use his word, stinks. Rutherford Poats, President Johnson's nominee as Deputy Director of the Agency for International Development, appeared before that committee. His confirmation has been blocked pending the hearings. Poats admitted the non-strategic goods are reaching the Viet Cong, and Munt expressed his shock.
Support for the enemy during wartime is foolish and irresponsible, which means aid and the Vietnamese government must take special measures to control strategic commodities. AID policy is to carefully monitor the import of such goods, to strengthen Vietnamese police measures against passage of such goods to the Viet Cong, and to disqualify them completely if they cannot be adequately controlled. However, there's no doubt that some commercial import program commodities will continue to find their way to the Viet Cong through normal market channels. There's no way to prevent this in a war of no fronts and extensive infestation of Viet Cong in nearly every town and province.
It is a shocking thing to me that it just slips through the office and you can't even identify the person who is responsible. It doesn't show on the face of the document. And then after it's all over, you take a look at it. I thought this was something that you'd thrown together maybe in this haphazard fashion because you're in a war. I can understand how situations might differ there. But if all these years, for 20 years, we haven't evolved a better system than that, no wonder the taxpayers' money going down the drain.
This is Tom Harmon with an amazing story. You know how prices are always going up, up, up? Well, here's a switch. Safeco Insurance is not only not increasing their rates, they're actually lowering their rates on auto insurance in most of California. If most of you watching now are good drivers, you probably qualify for Safeco because Safeco insures only careful, responsible motorists. That means you don't pay a penalty caused by careless drivers. The majority watching can take advantage of Safeco's new lower car insurance rates for families with teenage drivers using the family car. This is a real switch. Lower rates now possible for most of you thanks to Safeco. And here's something else. Many companies have dropped the 10% discount on compacts. Not Safeco. You still get the discount with Safeco. For further information on this amazing story, call your Safeco agent. He's listed in the yellow pages.
President Johnson and French President de Gaulle were among mourners today at the funeral of former West German Chancellor Adenauer. Afterwards, Mr. Johnson had brief meetings with General de Gaulle, Premier Moro of Italy, and Prime Minister Wilson of Britain. The cost of living went up again last month. Increases in clothing, transportation, and medical care more than offset a decline in the prices of food. Teamsters Union says the voting on the proposed new national trucking contract is still in doubt. Of the votes counted so far, the majority do favor the contract. Stock market gained today for the 9th consecutive session. Trading was active. Volume 10.5 million shares. Gainers outnumbered losers 663 to 568. The industrial average set a new high for the year. Walter Cronkite will have more world news at 7 o'clock. The local reports next.
This portion of the news was brought to you by Safeco Insurance, your finest, most complete roof of plan protection.
And now, the local news, presented by Adolph Coors Company of Golden, Colorado. Brewers of Coors, America's fine light beer.
On the local scene now, this day in 1967, a car and a body are found in Mission Bay. The Mexican president opens a new highway, and a former Canadian prime minister talks about foreign policy. What is believed to be the body of a Rancho Santa Fe heiress, who has been missing since February 27, was recovered this afternoon from Perez Cove in Mission Bay. She was 32-year-old Elizabeth Buick Sanger, who, according to her family, Mr. and Mrs. Henry Sanger of Rancho Santa Fe, was heiress to a multi-million-dollar fortune. What is believed to be her body was found inside a sports car in 10 feet of water. The discovery was made by workmen aboard a California Marine Construction Company barge. They were driving concrete pilings when they collided with a submerged vehicle. One of the workmen went into the water, hooked a cable to the vehicle, which was laying on its roof. Miss Sanger was believed to have been found inside the car behind the steering wheel. The young woman disappeared from the home of a friend in Pacific Beach early in the morning, February 27th. Her parents thought she might have gone to Carmel or Monterey, where she had visited in the past. However, authorities were unable to find a trace of the girl. A few weeks ago, her parents offered a $2,500 reward for information leading to contact with Miss Sanger. Descriptions of the woman and her metallic blue Jaguar were widely circulated up and down the coast. The site where the car left the road and entered the water is only about a half mile from the friend's home from which she disappeared.
The President of Mexico wound up a whirlwind tour of Tijuana today. TV8 newsman Jonathan Dunrankin reports from the scene.
The drive from Tijuana to Ensenada over the new toll road being opened today. Mexicans can drive the 60 miles for 30 pesos. But the President of Mexico is going to get a free ride this morning. Presidente Gustavo Díaz Ordaz is officially dedicating the toll road that took more than 2 years and cost the Secretaría de Obras Públicas, the Bureau of Public Works,
more than $25 million to build. More than 3,000 persons lined the approach to the Playas de Tijuana toll plaza just west of the city to greet the president as he arrived for the brief dedication. It was the midpoint of a hectic 2-day visit to Baja California. Díaz Ordaz began his tour in Mexicali yesterday morning, then flew to Tijuana in late afternoon to be met by more than 100,000 persons along the route of a 25-minute motorcade. This was Díaz Ordaz's first visit to Baja since becoming president of Mexico. Last night, he dedicated the new Public Works building in downtown Tijuana and a thermoelectric facility. This morning, Mexico's chief of state was up early to breakfast with Army officers at the 2nd Military Garrison and then drove to the toll station about 10:45 a.m. After unveiling a dedicatory plaque, Díaz Ordaz was scheduled to visit a $7 million water desalting plant at Rosarito Beach, and then this afternoon he was to dedicate new port buildings in Ensenada before flying to La Paz for a visit with the territorial governor of Baja California Sur, the lower half of the peninsula. All in all, it was a busy schedule for the Mexican president, but one to which he responded enthusiastically. Frequently, he plowed into the crowd in the style of President Johnson to press the flesh and exchange greetings with the people. Finally, he boarded his bus for the trip over the new toll road. For the most part, the 4-lane divided highway hugs the scenic Baja coastline. Officials say it will only trim 5 kilometers from the distance from Tijuana to Ensenada, but will cut driving time by 3/4 of an hour. The top speed is 65 miles an hour. More than 4,000 cars are expected to use the toll road each day when the word gets around that it's open to traffic. Drivers will have to pause at each toll station, 60 cents for passenger cars from Tijuana to Rosarito Beach, another 80 cents to continue on to La Misión, and $1 for the last leg to Ensenada. Campers and trailers cost extra, but motorcycles can travel for about 1/4 the cost. Heavy trucks may have to pay up to 3 times as much.
And so the toll highway that some skeptics said never would open is now in use. But even with tolls of $2.40 from Tijuana to Ensenada for passenger cars, and that's $4.80 round trip, one official says it may take 50 years to pay off the cost. American tourists will be a big help. From the Playas de Tijuana toll gate of Mexico's newest turnpike, Jonathan Dunrankin reporting for TV8 News.
A man suspected of robbing 3 banks in the San Diego area is in the custody of Los Angeles police. FBI agents arrested 36-year-old Jimmy Johnson Jr. yesterday, shortly after a Los Angeles savings and loan firm was robbed of about $3,500. Johnson was on parole from a prison sentence in Arizona on a bank robbery conviction. He was sought in connection with the robberies of the First National Bank on Rosecrans, the Bank of America branch at Five Points, and the Bank of America branch in National City. Former Prime Minister of Canada, the Honorable John G. Diefenbaker, addressed the Kiwanis Pillars of Freedom luncheon meeting today. Diefenbaker spoke on freedom in the Western world. He described the close relationship between Canada and the United States, which has prevailed for almost 2 centuries. Diefenbaker warned that the failure of NATO could be disastrous. The audience of more than 1,700 was dramatically stilled when he began to speak of Vietnam. The Canadian leader defended the U.S. position and said Hanoi has failed to meet U.S. peace overtures.
How beautiful is this land where winter magic changes the all-familiar patterns to formations of wondrous delight. The stream becomes a frozen fantasy. The snow on the pine, a white cloak. The barren aspens act as winter sentinels with their quiet shadows and profiles against a solemn sky. How beautiful is the symmetry of nature's design. How quiet and restful. Coors, America's fine light beer, embodies all these qualities. Its golden color, the winter sun. Its clear, sparkling goodness, the driven snow. Pure Rocky Mountain spring water in this winter wonderland. Next time, remember pleasant refreshment. Ask for Coors, America's fine light beer.
I'm George Lewis with tonight's top county news. The Board of Supervisors this afternoon held hearings on 3 proposed county ordinances to control the shooting of firearms, loud and disturbing noises, and entertainment establishments. The shooting ordinance sets aside unincorporated areas of the county where the use of firearms would be restricted or prohibited except in special circumstances. The board gave its tentative approval to the ordinance, which would take effect July 1st. The board sent back to the county council for redrafting an ordinance to prohibit loud, annoying, or unnecessary noises. At the request of County Sheriff Joe O'Connor, the supervisors adopted a 3rd ordinance, this one to license and control nightclubs and other entertainment establishments. District Attorney Don Keller said there's a real need for it in the unincorporated areas of the county. After the meeting, I talked with Sheriff O'Connor, the man responsible for enforcing the 3 ordinances.
All 3 of the ordinances are for a purpose to combat the, shall we say, the fluctuation of the population in San Diego County. We get so many new people moving in, and the area closes down, becomes more congested, and as it does, it brings up new problems, and then we have to come up with various regulatory ordinances in order to combat these problems.
Because of a lack of elbow room?
This is what it amounts to.
Let's take them.
These ordinances are there so that if we can abate the problem without actually having to make an arrest, we probably will. But on the other hand, if the person is very uncooperative and they don't want to get along and insist on violation, then at that time we can take action.
Will these new ordinances create more tasks for the officers? Will it make them busier?
Oh, yes. Yes, this will be one of the problems that comes with it. But then this is part of the job that we're hired to do.
A State College honor student today pleaded guilty to reduced charges in a marijuana case. Bonnie Jo Billu, former managing editor of the San Diego State College newspaper, had been charged with smuggling $44,000 worth of marijuana across the border. Ms. Billu earlier pleaded innocent to charges of conspiracy and transporting and concealing marijuana. U.S. District Judge Carter set sentencing on the reduced charges for the 5th of June. Next on this day, 1967, it's Doug Oliver and the Weather Word.
Tonight's local news has been presented by Coors, brewed with pure Rocky Mountain spring water. Thank you for joining us.
Ever hear of Wolfsburg, Germany? Why, that's where the famous Volkswagens are made. Here is the Volkswagen factory in Wolfsburg, the 4th largest manufacturer of automobiles in the world. But you don't have to go all the way to Wolfsburg to find factory fresh Volkswagens, because we have another Wolfsburg right here in San Diego. Wolf Motors, your authorized Volkswagen dealer in Pacific Beach. At Wolf, you'll find the famous Volkswagen sedans, buses, the squarebacks, the fastbacks, Carmen Gias, every model that Wolfsburg makes. You'll find a service department manned by factory-trained mechanics to keep your new Volkswagen factory fresh. And at Wolf, you'll find every part for every VW ever made. Volkswagen, made in Wolfsburg, Germany, sold at Wolf Motors Pacific Beach, just off Interstate 5 in Garnett at 4555 Mission Bay Drive.
And now, the KFMB Weather Word, brought to you by San Diego Gas and Electric Company, serving the energy needs of 1.25 million people in the better part of Southern California.
Hi, everybody. Well, this is more like it, huh? Beautiful day today. Just gorgeous out, not hardly a cloud in the sky. This is a pretty scene up in the San Gabriel Mountains, and I had a report last night, and I know it's still good today. Up there north of us in the San Gabriels and the San Bernardino Mountains, still, they say good to excellent skiing. All you skiers, of course, know what those terms mean exactly, I guess, specifically. So anywhere from 3 to 5, 6 feet of snow up there, so we put a 4 down here to strike an average. Isn't that pretty? And I don't know how long it's going to last up there, but it's mighty good right now. Okay, now for the west, clearing up beautifully, as you can see, with high pressure off the coast. We have another low center up in the northwest, and it has caused rain up in through the northwest and some snow in through the northern Rockies, and cold rain and snow up into the, or down into the central Rockies. And they expect this to send some waves. There's no front right now, but they expect this to send some waves down to maybe San Francisco by tomorrow. But with this high pressure off the coast, it's very doubtful whether it will get into Southern California. However, we'll keep an eye on it, but we're predicting more sunny weather for tomorrow. 51 at Seattle and at Portland, San Francisco 56. There was some snow up in the northern Sierras too early today, and they're expecting more tonight. Sacramento and Bakersfield and Fresno all had highs of 65. Up at Great Falls, the high was 37. 57 at Salt Lake City. Denver with a cool 47. They had some cold rain and snow flurries early this morning. They were down into the 20s this morning. And over at Phoenix and at Yuma, the highs were 76 today. For the rest of the country, it's still tornado time, although it has moved further south here. As you see the contrast in temperatures, that 46 is for Kansas City, for St. Louis, and for Little Rock. Quite cold. And on the other side of this front, steaming hot, 81 at Dallas-Fort Worth, New Orleans, 88. Tornado warnings were up early this afternoon for northeastern Texas and parts of Arkansas, or rather, I should say, southern Oklahoma. Now the tornado warnings are up tonight for southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, and western Mississippi, with severe thunderstorms and hail and high winds all in this general area. 52 for Chicago today, also for Indianapolis, and places like Milwaukee and Chicago and Cleveland and Cincinnati and Indianapolis, all in through that area were either 30 degrees or below in the high 20s. Quite cold overnight in through the Midwest this morning. 49 for Des Moines and also for Milwaukee. That 46 is for Omaha. Cleveland and Pittsburgh had highs of 47. Mostly fair in the Northeast. Portland, Maine, Boston, and New York all had highs of 53. Washington 61, Atlanta 60, 79 at Jacksonville and at Pensacola. That's the national weather. We'll have the local and the forecast for you in just a moment.
Is somebody going to dry the dishes?
Don't be a dishwasher. Use one in a 10-day free home trial. Rid yourself of dishwashing and drying drudgery. Wash and dry dishes hygienically. Get them spotlessly clean fast in a portable or convertible dishwasher. Super hot water kills bacteria washing dishes by hand can't kill. Reduces sickness and colds traveling through the family. Glassware, dishes, and silverware will sparkle again. So will pots and pans, and so will your hands. A portable or convertible dishwasher will be delivered to your home for a 10-day free home trial upon approved credit. Offer closes May 13th, the day before Mother's Day. Ask your local appliance dealer for details now. Tell him San Diego Gas and Electric sent you.
Tragic aftermath in the tornado-stricken areas of Chicago. This is Oak Lawn, where where homes are just beyond salvage, they're burning them. There's nothing else to do, just to burn them down and then cart away what is left and start all over again. I talked again with our film department head, Del Gay. He's getting scattered reports from his brother, I told you yesterday, whose house was practically flattened in the Chicago area from the tornadoes. He said all the windows were blown out and they can't find the glass. There is no sign of glass anywhere. And there is one chair in the house that is missing. And they've looked all around, you know, acres, and just cannot find it. Very, very wild stories when these tornadoes go through. And that's just a little bit, of course. Now for our county temperatures, Campo 63, they had a low of 33. Nice over in the deserts today. El Centro 80, Borrego 79, Palm Springs 82, Los Angeles 70. In the mid-60s through much of the county. 66 at Escondido with a low of 42. Ramona and Alpine 66. Ramona's low 34 this morning. El Cajon 68, they had a low of 43. 67 at La Mesa, Spring Valley, Lemon Grove, and Chula Vista. And Montgomery Field and also State College had highs of 64, and downtown we also had a high of 64 and a low of 50 this morning. Right now the temperature is 60 degrees, humidity on the dry side again, 58%, pressure nice and high, 30.13. The wind from the west-northwest at about 8 miles per hour. The sky is clear, visibility 15 miles, water temperature at Mission Beach 57 degrees today. So the forecast, mostly clear tonight, a few variable clouds tomorrow, but nice and sunny for the most part, and continuing to warm up. Should be nice in the deserts with highs in the low 80s. El Cajon looking for a 73, tonight's low 44, a 69 downtown tomorrow, tonight's low about 52. And that's the weather word. Next, Harold Keene with People in the News.
Are you looking for a really different kind of meal to serve? Visit San Diego Gas and Electric's free homemaking show this Thursday. They'll be discussing foods which can be your passport to Greece.
This is Walter Cronkite all over the world and national news for you at 7 o'clock from CBS News headquarters in New York. From the studios of TV8, Ray Wilson and Bob Regan present the award-winning TV8 newsreel. Mel Knapp brings you another special report. Lyle Bond reports on the world of sports. Doug Oliver presents the weather word. Harold Keene interviews people in the news, and Bob Dale reports the lighter side. I'll be back with these other special features on the CBS Evening News.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Safeco Insurance, your finest, most complete roof of plan protection.
Good evening. These are the world headlines at this hour. Red China says it's ready to undertake maximum national sacrifices to support North Vietnam in fighting the United States. But the broadcast from Peking does not say what form these sacrifices might take. The broadcast also opposed what is called the wanton bombing of Haiphong. In the Senate, critics of Vietnam policy have been speaking out in the wake of the stepped-up air war. Democrat J.W. Fulbright says the administration is actually trying to escalate the war and knock down all criticism here at home. And Democrat Stephen Young of Ohio says that General Westmoreland was called home from Vietnam to lobby for further escalation of the war.
The State Department admitted to Congress today that there was a pattern of abuse in the $400 million commodity aid program to South Vietnam, including corruption, kickbacks, and illicit sales to the Viet Cong. Republican Senator Carl Munt of the Senate Investigation Subcommittee probing the matter said the situation, to use his word, stinks. Rutherford Poats, President Johnson's nominee as Deputy Director of the Agency for International Development, appeared before that committee. His confirmation has been blocked pending the hearings. Poats admitted the non-strategic goods are reaching the Viet Cong, and Munt expressed his shock.
Support for the enemy during wartime is foolish and irresponsible, which means aid and the Vietnamese government must take special measures to control strategic commodities. AID policy is to carefully monitor the import of such goods, to strengthen Vietnamese police measures against passage of such goods to the Viet Cong, and to disqualify them completely if they cannot be adequately controlled. However, there's no doubt that some commercial import program commodities will continue to find their way to the Viet Cong through normal market channels. There's no way to prevent this in a war of no fronts and extensive infestation of Viet Cong in nearly every town and province.
It is a shocking thing to me that it just slips through the office and you can't even identify the person who is responsible. It doesn't show on the face of the document. And then after it's all over, you take a look at it. I thought this was something that you'd thrown together, maybe, in this haphazard fashion because you're in a war. I can understand how situations might differ there. But if all these years, for 20 years, we haven't evolved a better system than that, no wonder the taxpayers' money is going down the drain.
This is Tom Harmon with an amazing story. You know how prices are always going up, up, up? Well, here's a switch. Safeco Insurance is not only not increasing their rates, they're actually lowering their rates on auto insurance in most of California. If most of you watching now are good drivers, you probably qualify for Safeco because Safeco insures only careful, responsible motorists. That means you don't pay a penalty caused by careless drivers. The majority watching can take advantage of Safeco's new lower car insurance rates for families with teenage drivers using the family car. This is a real switch. Lower rates now possible for most of you thanks to Safeco. And here's something else. Many companies have dropped the 10% discount on compacts. Not Safeco, you still get the discount with Safeco. For further information on this amazing story, call your Safeco agent. He's listed in the yellow pages.
President Johnson and French President de Gaulle were among mourners today at the funeral of former West German Chancellor Adenauer. Afterwards, Mr. Johnson had brief meetings with General de Gaulle, Premier Moro of Italy, and Prime Minister Wilson of Britain. The cost of living went up again last month. Increases in clothing, transportation, and medical care more than offset a decline in the prices of food. Teamsters Union says the voting on the proposed new national trucking contract is still in doubt. Of the votes counted so far, the majority do favor the contract. Stock market gained today for the 9th consecutive session. Trading was active. Volume 10.5 million shares. Gainers outnumbered losers 663 to 568. The industrial average set a new high for the year. Walter Cronkite will have more world news at 7 o'clock. The local reports next.
This portion of the news was brought to you by Safeco Insurance, your finest, most complete roof of plan protection.
And now, the local news, presented by Adolph Coors Company of Golden, Colorado. Brewers of Coors, America's fine light beer.
On the local scene now, this day in 1967, a car and a body are found in Mission Bay. The Mexican president opens a new highway, and a former Canadian prime minister talks about foreign policy. What is believed to be the body of a Rancho Santa Fe heiress, who has been missing since February 27, was recovered this afternoon from Perez Cove in Mission Bay. She was 32-year-old Elizabeth Buick Sanger, who, according to her family, Mr. and Mrs. Henry Sanger of Rancho Santa Fe, was heiress to a multi-million-dollar fortune. What is believed to be her body was found inside a sports car in 10 feet of water. The discovery was made by workmen aboard a California Marine Construction Company barge. They were driving concrete pilings when they collided with a submerged vehicle. One of the workmen went into the water, hooked a cable to the vehicle, which was laying on its roof. Miss Sanger was believed to have been found inside the car behind the steering wheel. The young woman disappeared from the home of a friend in Pacific Beach early in the morning, February 27th. Her parents thought she might have gone to Carmel or Monterey, where she had visited in the past. However, authorities were unable to find a trace of the girl. A few weeks ago, her parents offered a $2,500 reward for information leading to contact with Miss Sanger. Descriptions of the woman and her metallic blue Jaguar were widely circulated up and down the coast. The site where the car left the road and entered the water is only about a half mile from the friend's home from which she disappeared.
The President of Mexico wound up a whirlwind tour of Tijuana today. TV8 newsman Jonathan Dunrankin reports from the scene.
The drive from Tijuana to Ensenada over the new toll road being opened today. Mexicans can drive the 60 miles for 30 pesos. But the President of Mexico is going to get a free ride this morning. Presidente Gustavo Díaz Ordaz is officially dedicating the toll road that took more than 2 years and cost the Secretaría de Obras Públicas, the Bureau of Public Works,
more than $25 million to build. More than 3,000 persons lined the approach to the Playas de Tijuana toll plaza just west of the city to greet the president as he arrived for the brief dedication. It was the midpoint of a hectic two-day visit to Baja California. Díaz Ordaz began his tour in Mexicali yesterday morning, then flew to Tijuana in late afternoon, to be met by more than 100,000 persons along the route of a 25-minute motorcade. This was Diaz Ordaz's first visit to Baja since becoming president of Mexico. Last night, he dedicated the new public works building in downtown Tijuana and a thermoelectric facility. This morning, Mexico's chief of state was up early to breakfast with Army officers at the 2nd Military Garrison and then drove to the toll station about 10:45 a.m.
Hello again. A little while ago, we showed you an electronic miracle, the new Philco Predictor. Well, now you're about to see something even more fantastic, something that only a few short months ago would have seemed impossible to the television industry. Watch closely. The table between them is a television set. But where's the picture?
Keep the set beside your chair. Put the picture anywhere. Take a look way over there. It's the new Predictor Tandem.
Unbelievable? Perhaps. And yet your Philco dealer has it in his showroom right now. At last, Philco scientists have found a way to separate the picture tube from the cabinet, creating an entirely new way to use and enjoy television. The compact Predictor chassis, built into a handsome table, places all the controls right beside your chair. Now you can put the picture wherever you please. Move it as far away as 25 feet, even to another room. There's never been anything like it. See the Predictor Tandem this week at your Philco dealer.
Keep the set beside your chair. Put the picture anywhere.
Hear it, learn it now. Our subject, new marketing patterns, which have arisen in these United States over a surprisingly short span of years. The wonder which has made it all possible, of course, is the cyclops we have come to know as television. But the specific part of that medium into which we intend to delve is spot television, and particularly the remarkable manner in which the Blair Television Companies, leaders in the field of television station representation, have harnessed spot television for the greatest possible gain to advertisers. When was this trend, this, in effect, revolution, first noted? Let's turn to a quote from television itself, only a few years back.
I have definite proof that there is right under our very eyes a revolution in progress.
If I may interrupt, Commissioner, aren't you twisting the facts just a little bit?
No, indeed.
I point out as chairman that the commissioner may have proof, and if so, he certainly can display it here and now.
Thank you. I have papers to prove it. It says right here, I'm holding them now, there is a revolution in progress.
There are no audible manifestations of approval or disapproval, please. May I see the paper, Commissioner? It says there's a revolution in progress, a television revolution of sight and sound and motion selling. This is a booklet published by the Blair Television Company.
It says there are other revolutions going on side by side.
Side by side,
yes.
With television's revolution of sight, sound, and motion selling, the United States is going through a series of other revolutions.
Oh, the way you read it, there won't be a dry eye here.
A revolution in the growth of family units, another revolution in greater family income, a revolution in family movement, another revolution in changing consumer tastes, a revolution in the speed of shopping decisions, and finally, a revolution
just a moment.
in the increasing array of new products.
Please. I'd like that correct.
Finally, a revolution.
Not a resolution.
A revolution
You're not
in
on the stage
increasing
now.
array of new products. Now, I notice the Blair booklet goes on to predict that the 60s will be the decade of the discretionary dollar. And spot television will be tomorrow's most vital media instrument in keeping up with these revolutions.
You're not whistling Dixie.
Voices from the past, yet with wisdom for today. Now let's take a look at that discretionary dollar you just heard predicted for the 60s. A trend developed which now indicates that today's 265 television markets are becoming 14 or so vast marketing areas. These 14 marketing areas take less than 4% of the U.S. actual land area, half the populace, and more than half the retail sales, but just 4% of the land. For example, from 1950 to 1956, metropolitan New York dropped 1% in population, while in a similar span, its suburbs rose 29%. In Suffolk County, for example, it soared 82%. In the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia's metropolitan area rose only 2%, while its suburbs were growing by 34%, and Bucks County was going up 97%.
See what's on the other channel, will you? This guy just...
Suburbs are growing 7 times faster than the rest of the country. And some states are showing similar signs of exploding populations. Floridians have increased in number 60% since 1950. And Californians are more numerous by 35%. In the last 5 years, 159 million Americans have switched their addresses. Truly a nation in a dynamic state of flux. A strong case for the flexibility of spot television. A unique flexibility that allows each advertiser to tailor his individual marketing strategy to today's explosively changing markets.
Well, I used to be an Edsel dealer.
I wonder if a member of my studio audience would care to hazard a guess as to the meaning of this next chart.
Oh, I can't you believe that's a cardiogram. It's one of my old heart cardiograms.
Not quite. This is a picture of what a human brain wave might look like. It's a way of explaining television's power as an advertising medium.
Oh, you hear that, Waldo? Oh, that's a brainwave, boy. That's a brainwave.
We know that brain waves control all processes of thinking and learning through the 5 senses. The most powerful sense is that of sight.
See that?
Oh,
Sight.
dry up.
I beg your pardon.
Not you, sir. You're very good. It's that other fella.
Well, thank you
Walking
very
into
much.
me.
What did he say?
Oh, dry up.
Sight accounts for about 65% of what we learn. When you combine sight and sound, learning is 35% more effective than just sight alone. And when you add motion, perhaps you begin to see why television has changed our way of life in just 10 years. Proof of this is that there are now 45 million TV sets in the U.S. 9 out of 10 U.S. homes have television already, and a new TV home is added every 14 seconds. What do they watch?
Oh, wait, I watch anything that's on. All the shows look alike, don't they, Waldo?
Oh, I don't think so. I like the football and the baseball, and I like the late news. I like ladies' programs. I used to like quiz shows.
Yeah, we watch westerns at my house.
I like westerns, too, like the Real McCoys, Maverick, Wyatt Earp.
They're good.
Oh, look alike me.
Well, what you list is not particularly my favorites. I like those whodunits. Those private eyes with the nice jazzy music like...
77 Sunset Strip, that's got jazzy music, too.
Well, if I want jazzy music, lady, I go buy records. I don't have to
right.
watch pictures with jazzy music.
We still like
the way
westerns.
Listen, if you're going to be a jazz music man,
Westerns
you don't want
are the
a
best
bunch of
thing to be
pictures. You
watching.
don't want a lot of stuff.
Well,
People get
tastes,
punched in the mouth.
Tastes vary.
I'd like to give you
I say tastes vary, and they vary market by market. But again, spot television's unmatched flexibility allows the advertiser to capitalize on the sharply divergent tastes in television viewing, where and when they occur. Also, in one form or another, more television is being watched each and every year. In 1953, the average TV viewer watched 4 hours and 40 minutes per day. By 1958, the figure had risen to 5 hours and 5 minutes. Here are some words spoken in late 1959 by a gentleman who grew up, so to speak, in the field of television selling. He was quoted concerning his views on how and why more and more items are moved from manufacturers to consumers.
Remember back in the 20s, in those days, the $2,000 to $4,000 income group were mass consumer markets.
That's right, all.
Back then, 40% of all American families
Model T Ford,
owned a
Oliver.
Model T Ford.
That's right.
By 1947, the middle class income had risen to this figure, 4,000 to 7,500.
That's the biggest income group in the U.S., the middle
The
class.
biggest
Oliver.
income group in the U.S., the middle class. Since 1947,
Incomes have
the
doubled.
number of folks with $7,500 incomes have doubled. And looking at the future, by the end of the 60s, the U.S. should reach a production level of over $750 billion.
That's a lot of clam, Oliver.
That would bring about the greatest increase in spending power in 10 years.
Well, for instance, in food sales, Oliver.
For example, look at food sales. Delicious business. Spot TV pre-sells more and more brands in today's $52.5 billion food business. 5,794 brands at last count. U.S. shoppers choose from over 8,000 items.
That's right, Oliver.
Folks make a choice every
What,
3
3
seconds.
seconds? I was going to say that.
Now, to help move these goods, last year more food dollars went into spot television than any other media. And here are the figures.
You want me to hold up the card, Oliver?
If you would, Tony. Spot TV, 136 million. Network TV, 108 million. Newspapers, 126 million.
Magazines, 76 million, Oliver.
I was going to say that. Why don't you keep your big mouth shut?
Weigh what you have just heard with these words from Miss Mary Magoon, one of our nation's leading home economists.
Thank you. I would like to point out that the housewife has to learn about 200 new products which hit the shelves each year. 200. Cigarettes alone with the new king size, and then the filters and the dual filters and the flip top and the double king size and the recessed filters and so forth. Now total 117 different domestic packages on grocery shelves. And soaps and detergents are up from 47 to 78 brands. You'd think there was one other thing. Oh, frozen foods. Frozen foods. They total, can you imagine this, 1,043 items.
And what phenomenal success stories, too. Take the case of Polaroid land camera. This product, less than 10 years old, is now outselling all other makes. But what of the cost of advertising? How much must advertisers pay in dollars and cents to get their messages and news across? Here are how the two owners of one small family business look at something called the cost per thousand.
Well, I'd like to point out here that Harry and I have pretty much sold on Spot TV.
Yes, particularly when you compare it with the cost per thousand of some of the print publications.
That's
Bert.
right, Harry. Why, to use a black and white page in the Saturday Evening Post cost 48% more in 1958 than the same page did in 1950. Life magazine?
54% more.
I'll do this, Harry. And to reach this same circulation today with a daily newspaper cost the advertiser 42% more than in 1950. 45% more with the Sunday paper. But measured on the same cost per thousand basis, Spot TV is 19% more efficient in 1958 than it was in 1950.
That's right, Bert. We used to advertise in Philadelphia newspapers, of which there used to be 40.
Just a second, Harry. I'd like to point out this particular fact, that area you mentioned, Philadelphia, is covered like a blanket by any one of 3 TV stations. And it's now one of Blair's 23 TMP, or Test Market Plan cities, where advertisers such as ourselves can find out how effective Spot TV is.
Yes, and all this at no additional cost, as they say, just normal media expenses.
Let's look at some results recorded by Ward Durrell, Director of Research for Blair's Test Market Plan Service. Example number 1. Welchade purchased 6 daytime announcements for 15 weeks in Tampa. As you can see, its product identity rose 87%.
It's amazing, Harry.
And its purchases took a similar turn upward, 37%.
Certainly is.
That's correct. Thorexin bought 5 announcements in 5 test markets. Thorexin brand identity went up 53% in only 1 month.
Staggering.
Another TMP, that's Test Market Plan story. Surprise Cereal purchased 21 daytime announcements per week for 12 weeks in Philadelphia on WFIL TV. Brand awareness for Surprise Cereal increased 300%. And for a truly remarkable success story, Maxwell House was the purchaser of 5 announcements per week for 8 weeks. In Seattle, using King TV, TMP results showed brand awareness up 51%, product purchases up 108%. And now for a roundup of some cumulative audience figures from 3 scattered markets. Let's go first to Phil Fish in Los Angeles.
This is Phil Fish in Los Angeles. Out here, the big story involves one local station, KTTV by name, which is a Blair station, and which has figures out here that if one advertiser used just 14 nighttime announcements on KTTV alone, the advertiser would have a cumulative, or cumulative, as Ed said, reach of 70 and a 5.2 frequency. And now, let's take a look at the weather. Small conditions have been particularly bad today. Oh, that does it. Now back to Ed.
Next, for a somewhat similar story from Chicago, we call in our Midwest correspondent, Walter Ballou.
My on?
Yes, come in, Walter.
Your Midwest correspondent, Wally Ballou, winner of 17 Radio Journalism Awards. Are we on, engineer?
You're on there, mushmouth.
The big story in the Windy City is that on one station, WBKB, Chicago, 20 daytime announcements have a 76.8 reach and a 5.7 frequency. Speaking of smog, Phil, and Los Angeles in general, if you're still listening to me, if our White Sox hadn't had to play the World Series in that so-called Coliseum, we might have...
I wasn't really listening to you. I was on my way out of here. But if this is another excuse why you still haven't paid me the $10 you lost, then that does it.
Finally, for the wrap-up from New York, here's Blair correspondent Artie Schermerhorn.
In New York, 20 daytime announcements on one station, WABC-TV, have a 71.6 reach and a 4.2 frequency. Now, does anyone know what that means? Hands.
Well, here in the Windy City...
just a second, Walter. I'd like to point out to Wally Ballou that if Chicago's figures seem high, we should bear in mind that many more people live here in New York. And also, that does it. Now back to Ed.
One of the largest spot spenders in television is Les Toyle. As a David to other soap Goliaths, Les Toyle won tremendous stakes by placing 99% of its budget in spot TV. It became America's leading detergent in just 4 years. Spot TV users with product success stories behind them read like a who's who in the American advertising roster. We've already heard about some food and drug items through Blair's test market plan. Other products, like Robert Hall clothes, Shell gasoline, Hertz You Drive It, Playtex girdles, and even Venus pencils, have also documented Spot TV's tremendous selling power through TMP. But the largest category of advertising in the country is food and drugs. So here now is Mr. Preston Fairley, who as a leading chain retailer is in a position to see the day-by-day operation of spot television at work, from the supermarket shelves to the consumer's shopping bag.
Now, Jimmy, I'm going to show you some examples of some product success stories.
Holy cats, Mr. Fairley.
See, I've been in a position to see the day-by-day operation of spot television at work, from the supermarket shelves to your mother's shopping bag.
Boy, wait till I tell the gang at school you've shown me all that.
Starting with a drug product, look what happened to Alka-Seltzer.
Oh, boy!
And here's Anahist, the cold reliever that works against the tiny microbes that make your little nose run.
Holy cow,
Jiffy
Mr.
Peanut
Fairley.
Butter is next, Jimmy. And if you've tried Jiffy Peanut Butter because of television, you're just one of millions of American boys and girls influenced by Spot TV.
Spot TV? Wowee, Mr. Fairley. Wait till I tell the gang you told me about that.
Wonder Bread. That's probably helped build your body stronger 12 ways, Jimmy. Then Duncan Hines cake mixes. Your mother probably uses them. Texeyes. Look what's happened to them with Spot TV.
Oh, boy, yes, Mr.
French's
Fairley.
Instant Potatoes. And an instant success story, Jimmy. And Mapo cereal.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Have you seen those spots with Marky Mapo, Jimmy?
Yeah, holy cats.
And I'm going to show you something else now, Jimmy.
Holy cats.
I'm going to show you how a bottle of beer can disappear.
Oh, boy.
Since the cessation of hostilities in 1945, over 70% of Procter & Gamble's household volume has been derived from new products. But what of already established products? Over 80% of General Foods sales stem from established products. The point is that both these highly successful concerns are heavy users of spot TV, a medium which combines sight, sound, and motion selling, a medium which calls to mind the phrase, see it, hear it, learn it now.
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
Why do most people like it? Why do most people want it? Why do most people buy it? And many other TV, well, the tubes are connected to the chassis is connected to the picture tube, the picture tube's connected to the tuning dial connected to the cabinet, and the name goes on right here. You know, that name's dependable, you know, that name's reliable, you know, that name means quality in every TV set.
It's glamorous, colorful, exciting. It's RCA Victor's new Mark Series Color TV, with a picture so bright, so true, you have to see it to believe it. RCA's new high-fidelity color tube, the years-ahead tube that sets industry standards, gives you a picture with new brightness, new clarity. Why? Because RCA has developed a new, improved group of color phosphors that give off more light. This advancement, combined with a new method of glare-proofing the screen, produces a picture that's up to 50%, that's right, 50% brighter, and gives you truer, sharper pictures in both color and black and white. See RCA Victor's new Mark Series Color TV at your dealers this week, with a picture so bright, so lifelike, you have to see it to believe it. RCA, the most trusted name in television.
And here it is, the greatest advance in television since color television itself. The ultimate in performance and convenience. 7-function remote control color television, so beautiful it enhances any decor. Clean, modern styling. No knobs or gadgets in sight. Superb cabinetry, master crafted of the finest woods. But the outstanding feature of this great new color set, the one big feature that sets it apart, is an amazing new wireless wizard electronic remote control. So perfected, you can operate every control, all 7 functions, and each function is completely variable. Tint, color, brightness, volume, fine tuning, channel selection, on-off. You can tune either with the remote unit from your easy chair or use the push-button panel in the cabinet. Here, hidden, is the push-button panel. It operates exactly in the same way as the wireless remote unit. These rocker bars control all of the necessary tuning functions. To use the 7-function wireless wizard remote control, turn on the power for the remote amplifier at the set. From then on, the set is operative on remote push-button tuning. This red button lights up and signals that the remote amplifier is on and ready for use. Take the remote unit from its handy storage space, and you're set for hours of pure pleasure. Enjoy your favorite programs, black and white or color. Turn the set on, select your channel, see all color shows in living color. Once you've adjusted fine-tuning for each channel, you never need touch fine-tuning again, either at the set or on the remote unit. But if you want, touch, and you can adjust fine-tuning to suit your taste at any time. If you overtune on this or any other control, just push the companion button to reverse the direction of the control. In the same way, press this rocker bar to adjust the color, variable all the way from black and white to maximum color intensity. To adjust the tint control for natural face tones, press the right rocker bar, or the left. Lets you enjoy the picture you want, the way you want to see it. Right at your fingertips, adjust brightness, lighter, darker. Like all the controls on this remote unit, the volume is fully variable. Select any volume you want. Should the telephone ring or guests arrive and you want to lower the sound for conversation, turn the volume down to your taste. Or surround yourself with room-filling four-speaker sound. To change channels, press this bar. See all regular programs in crisp, clear, black and white. This selector button changes channels clockwise, in ascending order, to pre-selected local channels. While this front window channel indicator lets you know at a glance what channel you're viewing, even from across the room. This button changes channels counterclockwise to lower numbered stations. When you want to turn off picture and sound, just press this button. It turns off the set amplifier, but the separate remote control amplifier is still on, ready for you to return to any later program you wish to see. To turn off this separate remote amplifier, press this button on the push-button panel. When the red pilot light is extinguished, you know both amplifiers are turned off. Yes, here is the ultimate in television, a supreme achievement in television engineering. A color set that puts RCA Victor years ahead in dependable performance, armchair convenience, luxurious styling. A set where the pride of ownership is truly second only to the pleasure.
Now that you've seen part one of Away From It All, let's turn to our Westinghouse program. One hand behind my back. Well, I wonder what Betty Fredess is going to do with one hand behind her back like that.
Come with me, and I'll show you what every one of you can do single-handed. Here, you can tune in this wonderful new Westinghouse television set with just one hand like this, because it has the sensational new Westinghouse single-dial control. There's no more fussing with several dials. You just turn this one dial, and you're tuned in perfectly. Now, in the set that you're watching now, does a channel ever come in like this and give you only sound? Or, when the picture comes in clear like this, is the sound ever so hard to get that all you hear is this? Well, that never happens with this wonderful new Westinghouse set because of the miracle of Westinghouse synchro tuning. Picture and sound come in together just like that. And once tuned, this set stays locked in tune. Now, here's something that will really amaze you. Here's the size of the screen in most table models. Now, let's compare it with this new Westinghouse screen. There. Now, that's quite a difference, isn't it? Engineering improvements give you a huge 17-inch rectangular screen in this wonderfully compact new Westinghouse set. And it gives you a black glass tube, which means that you get a clear, sharp picture even in daylight. Now, this set also has a built-in antenna, And that means that in many areas, there's no installation of any kind. You save the entire cost of it. So why put up with a set that isn't really up to date and has an old-fashioned small screen when you can get this wonderful new 17-inch Westinghouse set at a modest price? Just ask your dealer for the Westinghouse Linwood. There's no other set in its price range that compares with it. You can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
You're watching Sleepcore, media for insomnia.
You're about to see something spectacular. I don't think anyone watching can deny that this is one of the great advantages